looking in the mirror and saying, what do you really want out of this life? Who do you want to be?
All right, we're back. This is round 2. We're doing a double header here. And Phil's changing his hat and his glasses to make it look like we didn't just hit record again on a new podcast episode.
Now you've foiled me. Okay.
All right. So we're going to piggyback off of our last conversation and just really talk about chapters of life, right? Like I kind of ended the podcast last week around adapting to becoming a new parent and what happens to your life. Like what, obviously things change. And so we wanted to jump in and just talk about different life chapters. Obviously, when you're a kid, simple life, no responsibilities really, no agenda, and your only focus is school usually. And then you move into adulthood and you start figuring life out. And going through that process now that I am in my 40s, you start thinking about what the next chapters of life are going to be, and you tap into the chapters that you've experienced thus far to give you the foundation, the evidence to proceed forward with confidence and achieving success in what it is that you're trying to do. So let's start with you. Where did you pivot or adapt? I mean, that's kind of the topic we had last podcast about pivoting and adapting and all that stuff, but kind of using that as a foundational piece. What was the biggest pivot that you made that changed course in your life and created the chapter that you're in now?
Yeah, as you're talking about midlife, like the term used to be midlife crisis, right? And it was for men, it was get a Corvette, maybe start wearing Hawaiian shirts. A divorce is there, maybe a career change, but there's been so much shift with how rapidly we're growing. The term quarter life crisis is a thing now for young people that are coming out of education. They built the direction they thought they were going, whether it's accounting, software development, you name it. They are having to change there. And I think for myself, it was not necessarily like, your dad had a big portion of my pivot from law school into what was being done at MasterTech that shot me down the software career path and was able to build on that. And it took a lot of adapting and getting out over the skis. But in the midst of that journey, it was definitely a lifestyle adaptation of what we've talked about with the podcast, my behaviors from escaping some personal things and looking in the mirror and saying, what do you really want out of this life? Who do you want to be? And that's back to the identity piece. And I think at each of these stages, that's what we're doing. And whether you want to call it a midlife crisis or these chapters in life, sometimes I don't know. And I was getting into this conversation with Ryan Corey on Nature versus Nurture this week. I think some of it is really ingrained in our genetics, but I also believe that they are malleable, as we talked about in the last episode. So I think at each of these phases, we are trying to map, okay, what's this chapter look like? And we set some goals, and they're constantly fluctuating and adapting. But in each of these chapters, we're really trying to design our identities based on what we want and the people that we care about closest to us.
Do you look at life in like a period of time, like 7 years, 9 years, decade? Is it even or is it uneven? How do you look at it? Like those chapters, like you have your growing up.
I remember going through this exercise and it felt like it was like 8 or 9. It was just less than an actual decade,
Yeah.
And
the 7-year itch. You hear about that? Like you do something.
Paul and I are about to hit it. We're about to hit it in a month.
Damn, 7 years already.
And I told her I'm just going to get her like anti-itch cream. That's all she's getting for the anniversary.
I can't believe that's right. It's 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 7-year itch, I always looked at that as like in my career, like the different moves that I made, starting MasterTech at 22, company was sold to ADP when I was 24. And then I was there for 7 years before we launched Journey Phoenix here, the franchise payroll business. And then right around 7 years is when like Oppo Flow was born, the podcast was born, all the creative outlets started happening. So you just have these periods where you're just like, you're just not redefining yourself. You're not changing yourself too much, but you're finding new ways and new things that you're capable of. And so I look at those chapters, I do think probably decades, like you look at your 20s as just figuring it out. You're saying yes to a lot of things. and you're trying to figure out the vocation that you want, the career that you want, where you want to be. You're having fun, most likely. You're not settling down too much yet. And then your 30s, I think, is where you're like, okay, it's time to like really figure this out and like pick the direction that I want to go. And then by the time you're 40, these are hopefully, if you did those 2 decades right, these are like the earning years, right? Like where you're building that foundation, you're starting to make a little bit of money, and you're starting to figure out the life that you want to set yourself up for the rest of your life. And then obviously I'm not there yet, but in the 50s and 60s, hopefully you're enjoying all the fruits of your labor. And so that's kind of what most people, I would say, that's kind of the trajectory and the chapters that they go through. I mean, obviously you have the anomalies of, in your 20s, you figure things out quicker, and maybe started in your teens, like, like a Mr. Beast type situation where now you're $1 billion number one YouTuber and you're 27 years old building a media empire. But for the most of us,
right? There's always outliers. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those chapters though, like I think that's really what it is. I think in your 20s, you're saying yes to a lot of things. In your 30s, you're saying yes to the thing that you think will be the best thing for you. And in your 40s, you're starting to earn from that choice, and you've put in the work and laid the groundwork. And then your 50s, you're hopefully enjoying what you've done. But it's kind of sad to talk about. Like, that's what life is, just these decades? It can't be.
So quit being sad.
Come on, tell me.
Remember Joy. So this is what we got into the last one with what I see with these. And again, I fell into it too. It's millennials looking back at yesteryear. This was the best period in time. It is a trap. And I love how you went there first. You've got this amazing operator logical. We want to get to 7 or 8 years. You want to put a number on it. Yeah. And this is where I think that the time trap comes in, is if you want to get really esoteric, time is like, it's a concept. The space-time continuum can be bended. It has been bended before, but we need it as a law to operate as a society. Now, there's a much smarter Philip named Philip Zimbardo, and he wrote a book called The Time Paradox. And so what you're getting at kind of here is, I think he had it in 6. There were 6 like orientations: past positive, past negative, present hedonistic, present fatalistic, and future positive and future negative. And so this changes everything when you kind of, for your logical brain to break it down, we have an unbalanced time perspective. Like we have a high past negative, which could equal depression, a high future anxiety, which is chronic stress. And if we can get to an optimal profile, it's a blend of that, mostly present, some future planning, and past uses wisdom, not identity. So again, overthinking this, but this is an emotional thing that we want to cling to these things. But you start looking at it this way, you can kind of start playing with it. Like, no, catch yourself. Yes, I was so fun, but it was such a fun time. I was so free, but I was broke and I was reckless. That's just an example. And then mapping to the future. Okay, I don't want to be super secure and safe. I still want spontaneity and adventure, but I also need to lock into my responsibilities as a member of society. I've been rambling for a second, so I'm going to stop there. But I love thinking about this stuff because it can really help you control your state.
It's so funny. You nailed it. Like, there has to be some sort of structure in my mind. Like, I've got to know if I catch myself of being in the moment and all of a sudden the day ends, right? Like the day flies and you're not really paying attention to like a start and a finish to the day. Then it's like, dude, what? Like, it just goes by so fast. Like, it's Monday, now it's Friday. It's Monday, now it's Friday. Monday, now it's Friday. And it's like, is this what it is? Like, so you have to, there's a struggle. There's a mental struggle of trying to figure out how do you make things work so cleanly or frictionless, where you're just in, like you said, malleable, and you're just adapting and living life on your terms. But there's deadlines. There's things that you need to knock out, and there's things you have
Memento
to do it by.
Mori. Memento Mori. You are gonna die.
Yeah, I know.
I agree with you. That part is important. Yeah. Have you seen all the crazes of people aging themselves using AI? Like, I saw one, like a old version of LeBron.
Like upload a picture or something.
And it makes you look like you're 70, 80 years old.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this Memento Mori thing, like, based on your decisions, is that future self excited about the decisions you're making today?
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. Were you too reckless and careless? Mostly not. When you look at deathbeds and reflections, it was, man, I played it a little too safe.
Yeah.
I worked too much. I let this relationship fade that I really, really cared about. And so, again, it's balance. It's a paradox. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. And this is not to say that no action is being taken or I don't enjoy what I'm doing, right? Like, I think I'm taking a lot of action. There's multiple businesses that I'm running. There's different things that I'm teaching with the kids. There's different things that Kim and I are doing. I find it really difficult to have a day with no plans. Like, I find it very challenging. And I had a conversation with somebody and, talking about retirement. I'm like, I don't see that ever in my future. Like, I don't think I would be able to function if I don't have purpose. Like, there's people that can have purpose and it not be tied to work, right? Their purpose is just, whatever it is, travel, whatever, see the world. All that. Like, I would not be able to function that way. Like, I have to have, start clapping. We got the sound effects back.
But one thing that we fully agree on is that retirement is overrated.
Something to work on. And I don't see how you could have something to work on without the structure of time. Like, I feel like there's things that maybe not necessarily like a deadline of when something has to be pushed out, but if you're serving clients or doing something like for other people, like they're expecting, right? They're expecting things. So that's where I struggle is like, I don't know how to just be. I don't know how to do that very well. And but I find myself when I'm actually in work mode and I have a purpose and there's a project I'm working on and I'm in flow, like that's where I get that, like, this is just who I am. It's just what I'm doing. Some people might think that's work, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Like, I need that purpose. I need that structure.
We like to be useful.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
To be useful, your dad's term, my goal for you is to be an asset to society. And that can be in the smallest or biggest way. You start building a skill set. I think that you and I have the kind of feeling that we have a responsibility. What one can do, one must. That's one thing that it always is there. And this is coming from a guy who loves golf. And there's only so much golf I can play. If that's the majority of my day, that's going to get old really quick. And solving problems, paying it forward, building, these are the things that they just make you feel alive, keep you young.
Yeah. Well, and you get these little wins, right? Like these little, like being a resource for somebody makes you feel pretty damn good that like you just knocked it out of the park for somebody, right? And even better when someone asks you to do something and you go 3 steps beyond what they even asked you to do. And now their life is so much easier or their process is so much easier. And then that just becomes who you are and what you do. I think that just changes, you kind of almost have this, like you said, this duty, you feel this calling to be capable of more because you are capable of more. And so you're constantly putting yourself in those situations and looking for those opportunities to do that, to take the extra step, to find the extra work. But it's not work you don't want to do or hate to do or don't enjoy. It's because you've already found your purpose. And so you're just continuing down that path. And I don't know how, if ever, I would be able to deviate from that path. Like, I don't know if the standing still path is in the cards for me.
Yeah. And you were kind of going down this path in the previous episode about parenthood. And I'm like acutely aware that I don't have that experience with great conversations with Paula at peace, that's not a part of my chapter. Know that there'll always be that little bit that I'm going to miss out on this spin around existence, but I truly am at peace with that. But again, with that comes a level of not only creation of other things that are children, but service and passing on not only to the next generation, but seeing excellent parents like you, like Eric, like Mark. Now Shane, I'm missing listeners if I'm leaving you out. That's not the goal. It's just I see this amazing responsibility, and I know that it's because it's a piece of you that you're raising up in the world and passing it on. But if it's not done with intention, and if you're not kind of continuing the life compartments that we talk about all the way around, you can get short-sighted.
And I think one of the hardest things is you hear people say they grow up so fast. You have little living time clocks in your house. Like every birthday is another year. And the fact that my kids are going to be 14 and 12, and I can see them running around at 6 and 4, blows my mind. It feels like it was just yesterday. And it's like, that's what's scary, is like, as life goes on, life moves a lot faster. And so if you're not making moves, if you're not challenging yourself on purpose, if you're not changing the status quo, if you're not getting healthy, you're not focused on the right things, I think you're going to be really upset about that when you're 70, 80 years old. And as you said, you're going to die. So why not? Why not attack it and try new things and try those things, right? But yeah, with the kids, like Victoria the other night, she was like, Jack's getting really old and I don't like it. I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, he doesn't play with me like he used to. Like, she's 11, right? She's about to be 12. So she's still has some little kid stuff going on, right? Like, she still wants to play. And Jack's like about to be 14 and is all about sports and trading cards and wants to do teenager stuff, right? And so I was like, oh man, she was recognizing it. And then, in a couple of years she'll get to that point. But I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that's sad. Like, you guys were just little tykes not too long ago, and now you're about to be like, literally, I got 5 summers left with Jack, and then he's off to college. If that's what
poor Victoria been put on blast and infinite for the internet. You're good.
Well, no, she's
kidding.
Very aware.
Awesome.
Like, it's as a young girl, like how aware she is and how independent she is. She's just recognizing that there's changes going on in the household because their chapters are moving on, right? Like, they're moving out of the little kid stage and they're moving to teenagers and starting to figure out who they are and who they want to be. And as parents, it's our job to mold them, to help them on the right path to becoming that asset to society and being a good friend and being a good brother or a good sister and all that type of stuff. And that's hard because, again, there's no manual for this stuff. But you look at people like, yeah, you don't have any kids, but I use you as an example all the time, dude. Like, you look at people in your life, like, you're in my life, you're a very close person, close relationship in my life, and you're Uncle Phil in our household. And anytime I need to like bring a moment down to like really focus on something important, I'll be like, Uncle Phil told me, and then I'll say whatever it is. And they look at this like, oh man, yeah, Uncle Phil. You're like the wise Uncle Phil in the household. So you are a parent indirectly through me. And it's really neat.
And that means a ton. You always wish you could be around more with our crazy schedules, but hey, I think it's important to call out as well. Again, we talk a lot of this podcast about how can we get the most, how can we achieve, how can we get better, like, what is success? And it's like a big lesson for me too is the opposite of what we're talking about, and back to that present moment, that giving yourself some grace and actually slowing down enough to realize, we talk about mapping where you've come from, where you've been to the moment, that also gives you the space to make sure you're going in the right direction. And overall, I think you get to our age and you really have mapped out really who you want to be. We know it's going to tweak a little bit, but without that present moment and really evaluating where you came from, what your direction is, what your slight pivots are, we can get too caught up in mapping out the KPIs and be really strict on ourselves.
Measuring.
That's back to the adaptability piece, is being able to tweak direction a little bit and check in.
I think that's the hardest thing, is we are critical of ourselves. We're very critical for no reason. Like, no one's really judging us but ourselves, right?
I mean, I've done some pretty dumb stuff, so
yeah, but good reason. Yeah. I mean, if you want to look back at your past, maybe there was some questionable antics, but I'm saying, like, having that grace for yourself that you just mentioned is so important, because you can be really hard on yourself and you can get down on yourself, but time will pass and you'll learn from that situation. And no one else is really, unless it's something that you did to someone else, but if it's just something that you need to work on for yourself, like, give it time, like, give the opportunity there to heal or to change or adapt or whatever you need to do, and learn from the mistakes that you have or that you're making as you're trying to make these changes. At the end of the day, it's yours, it's your life, and you're doing it for your reasons. Just hopefully you're doing it for the right reasons. Is that a bamboo banger?
I think that's a bamboo banger. And I think that wraps up kind of part 2 of this discussion. Listeners, what were the life milestones that stick out to you? How are you mapping this current chapter? Give us some feedback. Let us know your thoughts. We're working on bringing on some pretty cool guests. Hit us up wherever you're listening, and we'll be back